I can't believe I didn't share it with you yet. In fact, I kept working on it a few months after the fact, and I always think I will have something to add, maybe a proper cover or anything, but I think my sketchbook is fine like that. I like the kind of thread everywhere and the relaxed approach of it. So this is my sketchbook for last year Urban Sketchers Symposium in Porto, Portugal, that I am so excited to share with you today as an inspiration and a bit of an introduction for Amsterdam Urban Sketchers Symposium. So because we have quite a lot of urban sketches, watercolor and everything to flip through together, and also because we tend to always be our worst critic and showing our work, pointing out everything that we think is wrong, and I think it can sometimes be a bit annoying for the viewer. I am going to try to live through this, just sharing a few comments about the technique used and what I like about the sketch I did. Hopefully it seems a good plan. Let's get started. Because the sketchbook is quite large, it's an A4 format with landscape orientation, and that I really liked to use it vertically. I will ask you sometimes to tilt a bit your head to the left. I can also show you the sketches a bit that way, but you can't really see them entirely, so both vision could be great. So this is my first impression of Porto, and I realized right away that this vertical landscape format would be really wonderful for me to try to catch the heights of the houses in Porto. So first watercolor, and I was happy with, and including some people, so it was a nice start. Another vertical page. So I bound the sketchbook with watercolor paper. You can check my videos and playlist about making your own if you like. And then I taped some normal paper to add some ink sketch to the sketchbook. So we were sitting on the stairs and trying to loosen up and catch an impression. And it was fun to sketch my friend just sketching behind me on the stairs as well. This is with my food nib fountain pen, of course. And then a bit of a fine line work for a change. I keep alternating between food nib, a bit bolder, and fine liner, maybe slightly more refined. So had to cut a bit of the Symposium document to be able to include it in here. I always like to include a bit of still lifes in my sketches, so I quite like all the colors, you know, that's really crazy colors on this page, and sketching our drinks to give a bit of a sense of friendship also and meeting along with the sketching part. Another sketch I was rather happy with a lot of white, you know, kind of impression of negative shape and the strength of Portugal blue sky. And a few details in here I added on the page. I would like to keep putting more things together on the page, maybe in Amsterdam, and pencil, ink, watercolor. This one is an ink sketch on my Clairefontaine 160 paper. It's nice because it's smoother for the food nib, but for the watercolor maybe not the best rendering. But these streets with all the flags and garlands was so wonderful. I really wanted to catch this view, and once again I'm happy with the presence of a character in my sketch, and trying to restrict the color to one area and not to kill the strength of black and white with ink with too much color. That's the way I prefer when I add some color to my ink sketch. A bit of nature thing with kind of spots, a bit of Porto behind. So the main part of the sketchbook is Porto Symposium, and then I will bring you a bit to Lisbon. Let's eat our first pastel de nata. Once again, you know, still lies along with some street view, and it was a bit of a crazy idea of trying to make this balcony with negative painting, but I like the casting shadow on the wall especially. And so afterwards I added a few things on my sketchbook, like gluing some pics I could find in a magazine, sometimes postcards too that I bought, and stamps to evoke traveling. And I really like that the Urban Sketchers team create these stamps for the symposium so that we can add them on our sketchbooks. This is another painting I really like because I think it was quite successful this way, that I really focused on this sense of light. So there was an evening light in here, putting all this in the sunshine, and the other thing were in shadow, so I decided to keep all white the part in the light, and playing with kind of crazy color for parts in the shade, and also splattering and marks. So yeah, I'm quite happy with it, and I think the figures stand out out quite well too. And once again, this long format is quite impressive. I think it really gives a sense of space. This was while waiting in the queue for Symposium Registration. I tried again the food nib on the watercolor paper, but it feels a bit dry to me. It forced me to slow down, whereas I like my marks when they are a bit faster. But I quite like the result of the rendering of this kind of loose random sketches. This was during the first sketch crawl. At first I thought I am pretty crazy to try to paint this bridge is going to be such a mess, and finally I am happy with the result. I was happy with the way I managed to catch a bit of the bridge in a loose way, silhouette of the background, and also the negative shape of the umbrellas, and also trying to include some people with different scales. This one was a bit bold and dark. It's a bit of the same approach than the first one in the sketchbook, but this is Piazza del Ribera. These facades are so colorful. I was once again a bit caught in the local colors, but the atmosphere overall is quite nice. And because we often exchange visiting cards between urban sketchers, it's really nice to try to include them in the sketchbook while trying to match a bit of the color or the atmosphere of the page. This one a bit more subtle. I just love painting stairs. I think they have such an interesting shape, and nice to have a bit of a subtle color, warm and cool, and a bit of a photo of a pastel de nata, just because it worked well, I think, with the color scheme, warm and cool. And I found within a few months really cool stamps, a bit travel oriented, so I will keep playing with them. This was my first workshop with Inma Serrano, so I'm always trying to find a way to include a bit of the workout in the sketchbook, and having a bit of the memory of what we worked on, trying to catch a bit of a sense of subject with continuous line and blind contour, and some things are quite crazy, but trying to evoke the movement, and it's all about, workshop working. Here trying to give a really strong sense of scale between a character really close in front of us and really teeny characters out there, and I think it works really well with the composition, with the man looking that direction as well. And I liked the result I got in here, even with a monochromatic sketch, but also playing with the scale and not focusing too much only on the surrounding, but also of what is closer to you. Same approach a bit in here with the color echo between two subjects. And here another one. And during lunch, I tried to keep working with this same approach, and I was having lunch with Haikyung, and I thought it was interesting to try to include her in the surroundings. So not only sketching, of course, the surrounding, or not only making a portrait, but trying to get both together. And I chose to use two different techniques, maybe to separate a bit the thing, and maybe because I was also slightly more comfortable to sketch her this close, moreover, with a pencil. Another view of the wonderful, colorful little lanes of Porto, trying to guide the eye through the little lane and to compose between people, plants, flags, and everything. I just loved Porto. It was such a wonderful city. So a bit of a messy page with several things, one watercolor page one side, a normal smooth paper on the other one. Trying to experiment with the big marker, not so sure about it. I maybe prefer these sketches with a fine liner and just using the bigger, larger marker just for the shadow and just a few watercolor touches. So more drinks! And this was a workshop with João Catarino about the wave and trying to find a rhythm in the waves in the water. So first with Monochromatic Studies. This was really interesting and really relaxing to do. At some point I was wondering, maybe I will get bored with it. And finally not at all. It was really interesting. Here he asked us to keep a monochromatic scheme for the real subject and a bit of the background, and to depict a bit of the colors in the water. And another view with the bridge, so trying to get a sense of the space, playing with brush strokes and playing more with the white patterns. I was thinking sometimes maybe, you know, this was a bit too much kind of regular shape, and in here same, I was not sure how to handle the white and the colorful parts. So here I tried to keep a bit more white and play a bit more with the light on the water, and also it was fun to, you know, use negative painting once again to have this impression of the character with the white tank top. And it was a bit on purpose that it was melted in the water. It was really kind of an abstract approach. And now Jan Fennelly workshop, so if you didn't check my last video, I really recommend that you do, because Jan approach is so fascinating and you couldn't guess how it's done until you see him work. And in this video he is breaking down his own technique in such an understandable way, it's so fascinating. I think my composition is a bit flat because maybe it's horizontal and I didn't have this so slanted line like Jan. And also just a few critics for this one, I think my watercolor was a bit too dark, and so the work with ink at the top doesn't show that much. So if I had to do it again, I would try to keep the watercolor lighter and trying to find a more dynamic composition. But I really liked to work with Jan and to make this nevertheless really inspiring. And back to my main watercolor approach, kind of a dripping thing. So this is the kind of sketch that is quite difficult to do because you have such a busy space in here, maybe you can't really imagine, but there is another video where you can see me sketching this, so you can see the view and it's so crazy. So the idea in here was having just kind of a silhouette with a church at the top and then melting all together and having a bit of the impression, if possible, on a few roofs or something. I don't know if you can guess, they are here with the warm colors and a few horizontal white spaces. And then the graffiti, people, the stairs, it was quite a complex sketch to do, but once again this long format allows you to put a lot of things together and playing with depth. It's really interesting. And we met Renato Palmuti on these stairs, it was a really nice encounter. Now a Shari Blokov workshop, once again so interesting. So I included her handout in here as well. And working on the shadows of color, thinking that the shadows are not necessarily grey, they can be warm, they can be cool, and how they can change depending on the environment. This is a painting done after the real subject, of course, but also Shari Blokov demo. I was quite happy with the sense of light. In fact, I added the stairs in front, I think comparing to Shari demo, because I really like always how the shadow is casting on stairs. So I wanted to add this to give even a stronger sense of light. And lovely visiting cards by talented urban sketchers. Another sketch I did afterwards doing Shari workshop, and she showed us how the light was playing on these facades, and it created a kind of dreamy colors on the facades because of this red building casting some red in yellow and blue houses and creating some purple and orange. So I try to catch this with my sketch. And it's always nice to have a few sketchers in your shot, if I may say, to catch a bit of the atmosphere of the symposium. This was just before the group photo. We were on a big piazza, really enormous space, and I decided to kind of shrink the view to put a few things I could put together. Normally you couldn't have the statue and this town hall in the same view, so I kind of removed a few boring houses here and there, you know, to be able to fit the domes and having this impression of the space. I think I can remember I did this really quickly, but I really like that all these people and this is really loose and these characters even have no legs and you have just this moon glow trail on wet paper. I like the spontaneity you can get on location, of course, with urban sketching. When you don't really have time to finish, you just have a few seconds more and you put a few strokes and it gives us such a fresh result. So I guess you can't be in Portugal without sketching fishes. I had a lot of fun sketching fishes and even fish bones and everything during Mark Tarro's workshop in Portugal some years ago. So it was really fun and a bit of a memory to try to paint these on my sketchbook in here. just a quick doodle in the morning. And here I tried to apply a bit of in Mascherano approach with only black and white. So I bought a really big markers. I think I have it in here. So at the Symposium place, I didn't know Faber-Castell was doing such a big waterproof pit artist pen. It's really good. The black is really strong and it's so nice to be able to fill big areas like that. I really enjoy to play with this approach with black and white, and of course I added some cards, so visiting cards of place and urban sketchers cards, all in black and white. Sometimes it's nice to have a bit of a black and white spirit in this sketchbook, like in here too. And this is a kind of a thumbnail study, value study of a painting I did just in here. So you see the view with the stairs and how the light is casting on the stairs once again. So that's what I tried already to work on a bit in here, with the shadow on the building and on the stairs. And you can find it in here again, even if of course this is vertical, so you have more space in front to give a dynamic to the painting. Also like the wires and the birds, I think it creates a really dynamic sketch. Another one with light and shadow. I really remember that I thought about Shari Blockhoff approach, you know, with the colors of the shadow and using this first light yellow and at the top this stronger yellow for a shadow, so that the house stay yellow, and not always using a bluish or grayish tone for the shadows. I really liked this effect with, once again, the light casting on the facade and shadows and atmosphere in the little lanes. This was another impressive view. So the other side of the river, the other side of the bridge, and trying to catch the whole view. So this was a bit of the same approach that the one I made in vertical with a stair in front. Too much vertical view with a stair in front. I am thinking about this one where I melted a bit the view together. This is a bit the same approach, but with horizontal, of course. So trying to have quite of a precise silhouette in here to catch a bit of a few churches and the tower and the town hall. So I think I started with the sky first, creating these negative shapes, and then you can tell that below it's just a lovely painting mess. That is really lovely with all the colors. And I tried to keep a few umbrellas, so the white umbrella that you can also see in here on my other sketch on the side of the bridge. So for the other sketch we are a bit the other side, and this is two different views with, of course, the same bridge in here, boat, bridge and melted colors. Another drink, kind of a juice. This pastel de nata is a bit dull color, but just for the atmosphere of the Portuguese thing. And I kept working on different scales of people. You can spot the bridge once again in here, but this time using a bit my nib. For depicting people and the atmosphere, I mean with watercolor I am usually working with looser silhouettes. So sometimes when I want to depict a bit more, you know, how people dress or their posture or anything, it's nice to sketch a bit with ink. So a bit of another doodle of the bridge. There were just a kind of a failed attempt in here, so I just put this at the top and playing with the torn page effect on something. And I was with Anna and Eileen, and I tried to be brave enough to sketch them. I like this sketch. I think I can recognize a bit of something in them, if you know them, and having, you know, the teapot and drink, and also behind the smaller figure to give the sense of scale. And you even have the umbrellas and houses the other side of the river with the boat. So I like how this gives a sense of the experience of the place with all the components of the sketch. I would really like to try again to make these kind of sketches in Amsterdam. So more people. I had a lot of fun trying to work on postures and everything. And sometimes when I am not so inspired of doing a watercolor, you can always find someone to sketch, and it's such a good practice to work on people. I especially like this posture and loose shape, and these were really funny too. Keep sketching people. I don't know if you can tell, but here I glued a piece of paper. It's not so obvious, but you can see a bit of the tearing of piece of paper. So there were a character I didn't like, so I glued a piece of paper on it and kept sketching, and you can't even notice it. And the little kid is fun and loosen up, you know, when you go further away from the focal point. All kind of people relaxing in Porto. Before leaving Porto, sketching this famous big letter sign in here, and also the station, and at last a bit of the tower. So this last day the sky was not so blue anymore, so rather than working with negative painting, I kept the sky white and worked with the silhouette of the tower, but trying to use enough color in here to depict the building. So before I am showing my sketch of Lisbon, I just want to remind you that if you are in Amsterdam next week, I have a meetup on 24th July, next Wednesday, Montalbanstoren Tower at 10 a.m. So feel free to check the video about it on Facebook and everything if you want to come. And when in Amsterdam, I'm going to try to make maybe really short, casual video, just a sharing of a few clips in a shorter video. So hopefully I can try to make it this year. So now, Lisbon. And I wanted to buy some more Tombow markers to experiment more with the approach, working with ink, especially the food nib, and adding values really easily with the Tombow. So we went several times in this art shop, Ponto das Artes, trying a Tombow and buy a few, and I met some famous urban sketchers instructors out there. It was so funny. So this was a night sketch, and I tried to work with distorted perspective, especially in Lisbon. I wanted to relax a bit with my sketching and loosen up even more. So I think the result is quite fun. Here trying to bring a bit more strong black, maybe a bit too bold, but still interesting. I think I like more the kind of craziness in here, so I was really on purpose bending walls and trying to fit a bit more on the page that you would necessarily be able to. And so in Lisbon there is this piazza with kind of wave tiles on the ground, so it was funny because I was really with this approach of bending everything, so it was fitting so well with the architecture itself. Of course the columns were not slanted, it was my interpretation of it. And I quite like the idea of adding the background only with grey so that it's here but not overpowering. So here a bit back with watercolor with this statue. I think statues are really nice subject. It can help you to work on people, but they are not moving so much. And I like my color choices with a bit of the purplish hue in here because this agapanthus flower are purple, and a bit of the greenish atmosphere of the garden all around the statue. It's not this statue, it's another one in a smaller garden. And so this is in the Botanical Garden in Lisbon. I was quite happy with the way I was able to simplify this kind of messy greenery and having a sense of light, especially on these palm trees. Negative painting is so wonderful and so powerful. I also like the wet in wet work in here and there and the small silhouette. Here just a few olives, sometimes just simple sketches are really nice, so in restaurants, olives and instruments just aside. And adding a few splatters and a bit of lettering, and that's it, your page is done! So now experimenting with the Tombow I bought in addition to the one I brought. So it was not so easy for me to figure out how to use these colors. I would really like to have your opinion. Is it a bit kind of weird colors as soon as I add these pink or yellow? In fact, I was thinking sometimes the sketches could be a bit too cool when I am using only grey and white and black. So that's why I wanted to use some warm colors. And I tried several ones. Maybe these ones are not light enough. And I think I prefer maybe the result when the colors are lighter. I can tell a bit of the influence of Jan Fennelly workshop with trying to find some details and having a few ties here and there a bit more defined than what I would do normally. This was one I really liked at the same time to do, and also like the results. I like the craziness of the long composition. I like also the big white areas and the slanted walls. So once again, I on purpose really drew this with slanted line and circulinear perspective. And here once again a bit of the influence of Jan with dropping a few details here and there to catch the eye, and then you probably know that you have this everywhere, but if you put it everywhere it's overwhelmed, but just keeping this here and there, it's really interesting. And also, frankly, these little cobblestones are really special in Lisbon, so it was nice to be able to catch them in the sketchbook. And once again, you have this impression of little lane that I really like to work on, especially on this vertical composition on the page. Casual sketch of us sketching while taking a tea or everything. Sketchbook of my friend, water pots, a bit of the tea bag. That's always nice to add a few things on the page. And here the tea label too. Another buzzy scene of Lisbon, and also adding a piece of leaflet that I always try to gather when I am traveling, and it was fun to try to catch this atmosphere with trams and everything. This part may be a bit empty, but maybe because the page seems separate, it looks like this is just one sketch, and maybe that's not so much of a problem anyway. Another one with this is a bit inspired by a lapin way of sometimes bending bell towers when they're not fitting in the page, or just on purpose because it's fun. And adding a bit of collage when you don't like a part of your sketch, or just because it enhances the design, especially when the colors can match another crazy distorted sketch of this big arch in Lisbon. I like to have this idea of this approach for this subject because I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have enjoyed sketching such a complicated subject with a lot of statues, a lot of carving, if I tried to make more details, maybe more realistic, or having it straight, or the proportion. But I was really into this approach where you bit of don't care about the proportion, you don't care about having it straight, you just care about having the dynamic of the place, the impression, and making your own interpretation. And this really helped me to enjoy doing it, and probably also enjoy the results. Here a bit of a loose sketch while listening for the music of this artist. If you want to listen the music too in here. And sometimes a lot of white space works really well. You don't need much to make a nice sketch. Another quick one near our accommodation in here before leaving in Lisbon. Here trying to get a sense of lights, maybe a bit messy, but I said I wouldn't critique my work, so maybe colors are quite fun and nice, and shadow and silhouette, why not? It's not so bad. More light, shadows, umbrellas and everything. And here I like this kid with a colorful drink, and I like also this idea of putting colors only on her so that it really focuses on my favorite part of the sketch. Another vertical scene with a foreground with this young man sitting on the stairs, and all this perspective with the sea at the end. So a bit of a distorted facade, graffiti, the tramway cabs, and it was not so easy, the light and shadow in here. Probably I should have tried again with watercolor, but I think this paper was not so suitable for watercolor. So for Amsterdam I'm going to try something else to be able to add easier watercolor on my ink sketches. More to come. And now an horizontal one again. You can tell how I kept playing with a slanted thing. And once again I like that you have the sea and the boat in here, and you can have a bit everything up to the statue and the music, everything together. And I think I could really feel that with the food nib and sketching more, my lines were loosening up, and I was working more with continuous line, loose marks, and that my work on silhouettes were better. I think I probably lost it a bit because of a lack of practice since then. So in Amsterdam this year I am going to try to get back into sketching people a bit more and a bit better. Now, if you want to share with me last bacalhau abra, so the special codfish Portuguese specialty, I was quite happy with this sketch, and I think it's nice and fun how it can fit at the same time, so once again, the table with my meal up to the umbrella that is at the top of my head. I think this idea comes from my first workshop at an Urban Sketchers Symposium. It was in Manchester with Veronica Lawler, and I remember when she explained how you could try to fit on your sketch something, up above your head and just in front of you or at your feet. And once again, kind of personalize the proportion and playing with space so that you can fit more and express more in your sketch. I like the green scheme in here, and maybe you can guess, but I didn't have any green markers at the time, so I played with blue and yellow and layering the two colors to create this green color that were really present in the surrounding, especially on the table, and the note was green too, so it was quite fun. So last sketch before leaving, with little cobblestone, stairs, people, a sense of height, nice bell tower, a narrow lane in Portugal. And that's it. I have all the name of my Patreon supporting me at the time, trying to get a nice calligraphy for their lovely name. So people supporting my work and my art and my teaching from all over the world. Thank you so much. I am so grateful for the support, and I hope that content of this sketchbook was worth your support. And this was a page where all the people were trying out the stamps for the symposium, so I thought it would be really nice to make a kind of cover. So now I can tell you for real, see you in Amsterdam!
See you in Amsterdam, girl.
See you in Amsterdam! See you in Amsterdam! And see you next year in Amsterdam!